Irish Media Network. We entertain.
Good morning, folks, and welcome to Irish Media Network Sports Update. I'm your host, Joe Caulfield, and on today's show, we're going to be talking all about rugby. So after their very, very convincing win over Ulster in the Pro 14 final last weekend, Leinster are back on the road again this week, and they are facing their old nemesis in Saracens in the Champions Cup quarter-final this weekend. So we have loads to chat about this week. Joining me this week, the author of Go Johnny Go, RTE sports broadcaster and journalist, Paul Flynn joins me.
How are you?
Hi, Paul. How
Good
are
to be on
things?
the show. Yeah, super. Thanks a million. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks a million for coming on. And look, let's jump straight into it and have a chat about Leinster and their all-conquering dominance over the last couple of weeks. They've been incredibly impressive and dominant. Will they be able to maintain that level of superiority against Saracens this weekend?
Yeah, it's a fascinating clash, isn't it? And it's something I suppose that all rugby fans are licking their lips about because, you know, just a few short weeks ago with we're living in the COVID world, you don't really know what sport is going to be on, what wasn't on. So let's say 3 months ago, you would have been delighted that this clash was going ahead, you know, when we were in the middle of those dark days and lockdown. So it's just been a real kind of rugby festival, hasn't it, of the last few weeks. And, you know, you mentioned Leinster, the all-conquering team of the last few weeks. I mean, they've really been the all-conquering team of more than a year now. And that's the big question is can anyone get near them? They've been so impressive since the restart, obviously with the couple of games against Munster, the win over Ulster last weekend, and the way they're chopping and changing their team so seamlessly. It seems there's two teams really now, isn't there? And a lot of people speculating that Leinster may have the two best teams in the Pro 14. But, and that's the big but, it's a big shift in gear now, isn't it? And it's a big leap up to the Champions Cup, and there's just so many unknowns. There's no real form guide for this, is there? We have obviously been playing games, and Leinster are so dominant in the Pro 14, but Saracens are another level up, and can we really read into much of the form guide from there too? It's very hard to know. They've been gunning for this game, Saracens, really for so long. I suppose so to have Leinster, but really for Saracens, that's all they have to play for now. They've been smarting all through lockdown, obviously after their relegation that we know about, and we can talk about all that stuff in a few minutes. But I mean, I really think Saracens will be gunning for Leinster. Leinster, they've had their eye on this for an awful long time, so I think it's going to be a fascinating clash.
Yeah, and as you say, they're unbeaten in over a year now, but the last team to beat them were Saracens in the Champions Cup semi-final last year. And like when you look at, I suppose the only way to kind of really anticipate what might happen on Saturday is to see where Leinster might have vulnerabilities and who do Saracens have to exploit that. And in that context, it's really interesting because I was reading, Robin McBride was talking about Leinster's lineouts slightly malfunctioning against Ulster last weekend. And you look in the second row, you have Maro Itoje playing for Saracens at the weekend. No better man possibly on the face of the planet to upset and exploit that vulnerability. So it's hard to know, but like going off previous performances and the level of talent they have, I think Saracens could certainly spoil the party on Saturday.
There's no doubt about that. They absolutely can. But at the same time, going back to saying the last time they're beaten, we see now, like, I think roughly we might be speaking about 10 of the 23-man squad that was available to Saracens last time aren't going to play this weekend for various reasons. That's going to have an impact. They clearly have super players, as you said, the Vunipola brothers, Itoje. They can really disrupt Leinster. They're going to be incredibly strong. But I think on the whole, you'd probably have to fancy Leinster at this stage. Just a more cohesive unit. The form is with them, and the sort of the freshness of the players, and the big difference, I think if Owen Farrell was playing, you might have it more as a kind of a 50-50 tie, but I think that shifts the balance considerably in Leinster's favour. You mentioned the line-out, you know, that has been the one aspect I think that has been struggling a little bit for Leinster since the restart, and some talk today that possibly Sean Cronin will be brought back in at hooker, although we won't know that until tomorrow. And like that's really the one issue you'll probably see for Leinster, and it's clearly something Saracens will target. I think on the whole, Saracens will want it to be a kind of a big battling game with the forwards kind of locking horns, and they can be quite a disruptive presence there. They have a lot of power. They probably are more powerful than Leinster in those kind of one-on-one battles. Leinster will probably try to have a more sort of expansive, you know, they'd like it to be a bit more of a passing game, getting wide and kind of trying to create difficulties out there. So I think a fascinating battle. Just with the players that Saracens are missing, it will more than likely be a different game to last year. And I think if you had to put your neck on the line, you'd be favouring Leinster at this moment in time anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be leaning that way myself. You mentioned Owen Farrell will be missing tomorrow. He's serving a 5-match ban for a high tackle, a red card. What was your take on that? Do you think it was justified, the 5-match ban?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's difficult to know. I think the tackle was, we could all see it, it was one of those ones. And I think, they're the rules. I don't think there were too many complaints really, were there? That's it's just the timing of it for him and for Saracens was so unfortunate. But I think if it was happening outside of that time, if it was kind of in the course of the regular season and he got a 5-match ban from the Premiership, I don't think there would have been kind of too many complaints. I guess it's just the nature of so little rugby is being played. This is such a big game, and it's such a kind of a crucial suspension at such a crucial time. But we all know how rugby has changed over the last few years, and those kind of tackles just aren't acceptable anymore. And all the players really know that. And obviously, in the heat of the moment, it can happen to any player, really, accidental or not. But I think everyone accepts that for the good of the game, that they're the rules now.
Yeah, he has a little bit of form in the book as well. There was a couple of challenges in previous matches where he got off having kind of no hand tackles and things like that. So I suppose it was probably coming, and as you say, it's just unfortunate it comes now because he would have added that extra element of spice to the back line. We're looking at Leinster's back line then. One thing that I've just found incredibly impressive about Leinster is their pursuit of progression, that they want to be better all the time in every aspect of play. And I really feel that's exemplified with the last couple of matches in Gary Ringrose and Robbie Henshaw have really developed their kicking games. So against Munster in the first match, Ringrose chipped through a lovely little ball Henshaw chipped it through for Ringrose to finish. And then against Ulster the last day, Ringrose on 2 occasions really pinned them back with those long kind of grubber kicks into the corner, which played really well positionally for Leinster. In terms of game management, do you think Leinster will be able to kind of get in a position of dominance and then just kind of see it out because they're so used to winning high-level matches at this stage?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one, hasn't it? And, I think specifically we've become so accustomed to Leinster being a ball retention team and keeping it in hand. And that's the one noticeable difference in their play since we've come back from the restart is that kicking, and particularly kicking kind of in the attacking third, if you want to put it that way, which we never would have seen Leinster do before, and whether they're just trying to exploit the space that's there or not, or if it's a predefined tactic. I think we would have to assume at this stage it's a predefined tactic. We saw Frawley doing it as well when he came in at inside centre as well. So you wonder, is there just a question mark? They might be trying to sow that little seed of doubt in the Saracens' minds as to this is the way they're going to play, and they might revert to kind of form. But I think this is, we can all assume this is clearly designed with Saracens in mind and with that game on the horizon that they've been kind of trying to put a game plan in place. And I think with the missing Liam Williams as well, they might have a little eye on the fact that they're in defence, they might be a little bit more vulnerable, and maybe it's just with an eye to exploiting that space as well. But it's been an interesting aspect of the lockdown, and we know Leinster have worked a lot on kind of how other teams perceive them, and what the weaknesses other teams might be. And this is, I think, one thing they've certainly been working on, and it remains to be seen whether they use it to good effect this weekend. But I think you can expect to see a little bit more, as you mentioned, the individual players too, Henshaw and Ringrose particularly, kind of been working on that themselves.
Yeah, it's such an extra dimension in the play to have 3 kickers at 10, 12 and 13 as opposed to just 10. And focusing on that, Johnny Sexton, I mean, like, he leads Leinster into the quarterfinal on Saturday. He's such a talismanic player for Leinster, and he was the focus of the book you've just released on the 4th of September. Go, Johnny, go. Tell us a little bit about the book and the focus of the book and who you would like it to resonate with.
Yeah, so Go, Johnny, Go is it's published. It's a children's book, really, with the story of Johnny Sexton, really from his childhood, growing up in he was born in 1985 in Dublin and growing up in Rathgar. His kind of first footsteps on the rugby field and through Schools Cup. And the interesting thing about Johnny, he kind of showed all the promise he had from early days. Kicking a winning drop goal in a Schools Cup final when he was just 15 years of age, and that sort of winning streak has stayed with him all through. So the book is written, it's for kind of 6 to 12-year-old boys and girls. And we've done it in association with Dyslexia Ireland to really encourage young boys and girls to read. And one of the key things for youngsters and to encourage them to read is to have a topic that they're interested in. So we all remember from our own school days, pulling out a book from the library, and it mightn't have been something that you're particularly interested in, that struggle. So the idea is really to have books on the shelf that kids are really interested in, and who better to have than such a hero to so many young sports fans as Johnny Sexton. And one of I think the really key things about this Johnny story for all young children is that he didn't actually have it all his own way. He was obviously a super talented youngster, but there were times in his career when he faced a lot of setbacks, and there were times when he even thought about throwing the towel in, but he kind of overcame that adversity and became the superstar that we know today.
And it's something that has always struck me about Johnny Sexton, that he has, I would imagine, incredible mental toughness and resilience, which is something that will resonate with everyone, because it's not a God-given gift. It's not a talent. It's not being fast. It's not being really strong or agile. It's something that you can develop and work on, and it's something that kids can start working on from any age.
Yeah, and that's the fantastic message in Johnny's story. Now, it's an enjoyable read. It's it's kind of it's based on his career. It's factual, but it's kind of fictionalized then as well in terms of being inside the dressing room, the conversations the players would have had with each other, and the little stories from behind the scenes in the camp. But I think that's the message that shines through. Really, is he overcame. He was clearly born with a lot of natural talents that made him a super sportsman beyond rugby even. But I think that's the key thing. That even when he was faced with adversity, he bounced back. So he expected to be picked for the Leinster Academy when he was coming out of school, and it didn't happen. And back paying for his club, St. Mary's, when a lot of his contemporaries went on to the Leinster Academy. But rather than pack it in, he kept going, and he fought hard, and he made his way into the Leinster Academy eventually, and then. Likewise, getting into the Leinster team, he really struggled with Felipe Contepomi in his way in those years, and he went back for a short while playing for St. Mary's, which a lot of people forget about, before he came to the fore again. And then, as we all know, his struggles with trying to beat Rochester's number 10 shirt for Ireland, so that forms a nice little part of the book too. So I think that's the key message in the story. I mean, it's a Roy of the Rovers kind of style story, but I think for youngsters, for anyone who has young children, it's a great gift from that point of view, because it teaches them really the power to keep going, and that talent will is worth a lot, but actually hard work is what gets you where you want to go at the end of the day. Yeah.
And it leads me on nicely to our next segment. So we're in search of Ireland's greatest sporting legend, and someday Johnny Sexton certainly might make it into this video reel, but he isn't just yet. I'd love to hear your opinion on who you feel is Ireland's greatest sporting legend. We're going to roll a clip first, so you can decide then.
The heat by O'Driscoll. Oh, brilliant by O'Driscoll! It's towards Keane! Roy Keane with a captain's goal!
An absolute rocket. Rocket from Sheffield.
And the 16 times champion jockey, Tony McCoy, he comes storming up the hill to win the Gold Cup.
10, Rory. The storylines and the stakes for him. A win not just means the Masters, but it means the Grand Slam. And that's beautiful.
And Sonny O'Sullivan is going to take the world title.
War Cup to Dublin's captain, Stephen Truxton.
The fighting pride of Ireland, Katie Taylor.
So look, it's so difficult. I've watched that clip about 15 times, and I struggle with it every time. We have about 40 seconds for you to tell us who and why.
Okay, I mean, you got huge cases for everyone. I have great memories of Sonia. I suppose at the age profile we're at, as a dub, Stephen Cluxton will always be there. But for me, and I suppose a little bit personal, I'd have to say Katie Taylor. From my work, I followed Katie an awful lot. I was in the Caribbean in Trinidad when she won the world title in 2010. I was in China in May 2012 when.
Sorry, I just lost your sound there. Sorry, just lost your sound. Could you go back just from Trinidad and go again?
Yeah, so I was in Trinidad in 2010 when she won the world title. I was in China 2012 in May when she qualified for the Olympics at the World Championship. I was in London when she won that gold medal, and what a famous night. I mean, that for me remains the best sporting occasion I've ever been at. So I think for all those reasons, not just because of what she's done as a sports person, but out of the ring as well. There's so many people who say women's boxing would never have been an Olympic sport without Katie Taylor. So I think for being a trailblazer in the ring and outside of the ring as well, in her own kind of understated way, I on the spot, I'd have to say Katie Taylor. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Look, I'm sure you'll be joined by many other people who in selecting Katie Taylor. We'll have to leave it at that. Thanks a million for joining us today on the Sports Update. And good luck with the book, Go Johnny Go. I'm sure it'll be a favourite for many young readers.
Super.
Irish Media Network.